It began on a Tuesday, the kind of day that felt unremarkable until it wasn't. The sky over the Pacific shimmered with an aurora that had no business being there, waves of green and violet light cascading across the horizon like a painter gone mad. At first, people thought it was some atmospheric anomaly, maybe a freak solar storm. But then the ships emerged, smooth obsidian crafts that moved without sound or exhaust, as if they were gliding on invisible rails. They didn't hover ominously over major cities or unleash beams of destruction, like in the movies. No, they simply descended to a quiet patch of ocean and sat there, bobbing gently like oversized black pebbles. The world held its breath. Governments scrambled their jets and readied their missiles, but no one fired. Everyone seemed to understand that these visitors weren't here for war. A few hours later, they sent their first message, a series of geometric patterns broadcast on every screen in the world. Circles, triangles, spirals. It was mesmerizing but baffling until someone at NASA realized it was a mathematical greeting, a universal hello. The aliens were trying to talk. When they finally stepped out of their ships 3 days later, humanity was ready, or as ready as we could be for first contact. They were tall and spindly, with skin that shimmered like liquid mercury under the sun. Their faces were blank slates except for 2 large eyes that seemed to shift colors depending on the light. They didn't speak, not in any way we could hear, but they carried devices that projected their thoughts into our minds, a chorus of calm voices that spoke in every language at once. "We come in peace," they said. "We wish to know you." And just like that, centuries of fear about hostile invaders evaporated like morning dew. The world erupted into cautious celebration. Diplomats from every nation gathered at a neutral site, a floating platform constructed hastily in the Pacific to meet with the visitors. They called themselves the Ailari, though it wasn't so much a name as a concept, seekers of harmony. They explained that they had been observing Earth for centuries, but had waited until humanity reached a certain level of technological maturity before making contact. The talks were cordial but awkward at first. What do you say to beings who've likely traversed galaxies? What could we possibly offer them? The Ailari didn't seem interested in trade or resources. They were here for culture, for stories and ideas. "Show us who you are," they said, and so we did. We showed them art and literature, music and dance. We broadcasted symphonies into their ships and projected images of Michelangelo's David onto massive screens. They watched it all with polite curiosity but little reaction, until someone suggested cartoons. It was an intern at one of the media companies involved in the cultural exchange who had the idea. "If they want to know us," she said, "they should see what makes us laugh." And so humanity's greatest cultural ambassadors turned out. Not to be Shakespeare or Beethoven, but Bugs Bunny and SpongeBob SquarePants. The Ailari were delighted. Their shimmering faces remained unreadable as ever, but their voices filled with something unmistakably close to laughter when Bugs tricked Elmer Fudd into falling off a cliff, or when Tom's latest scheme to catch Jerry backfired spectacularly. They watched hours of it, Looney Tunes, The Simpsons, even obscure shows from decades past, and each time their response was the same, pure joy. "This is your essence," they said finally. "This is your soul." It was both humbling and absurd to think that after all our efforts to showcase the heights of human achievement, what resonated most with these interstellar travelers was slapstick comedy and animated chaos. But maybe that made sense. Humor was universal, or nearly so, and cartoons distilled it into its purest form. Simple stories about failure and resilience, about cleverness triumphing over brute force. By the end of their visit, the Ailari had amassed an archive of every cartoon humanity had ever produced. In return, they shared some of their own stories, abstract holographic projections that unfolded like living dreams, but none of it quite compared to Daffy Duck getting his beak blown off by an exploding cigar. When they finally departed, leaving, behind only memories and questions we might never answer, one thing was clear. Humanity had made its mark on the galaxy, not with weapons or technology, but with laughter. And somewhere out there in the vastness of space, alien children might one day grow up watching reruns of Scooby-Doo dubbed in languages we'll never understand. The Aelari were mesmerized by the classics. Of all the cultural artifacts we presented, it was the golden age of animation that seemed to captivate them most. These weren't just cartoons. They were time capsules, brimming with humor, ingenuity, and a surprising depth of cultural resonance. The Aelari watched, their shimmering eyes reflecting the antics of characters who had danced across screens for decades. First came Looney Tunes. Bugs Bunny, with his sly grin and effortless charm, became an instant favorite. The Aelari were enraptured by his wit and resilience, his ability to outsmart every adversary with nothing more than a carrot and a quip. They marveled at the musicality of it all, the way Carl Stalling's orchestrations turned slapstick into symphony. When they saw What's Opera Doc, their voices harmonized in what we could only interpret as awe. "This is not mere humor," they said. "This is art." Bugs in a horned helmet lampooning Wagnerian opera. It was absurdity elevated to genius. Then there was Tom and Jerry. The eternal chase between cat and mouse transcended language barriers. It was pure kinetic storytelling. The Aelari leaned forward as Tom's elaborate traps backfired spectacularly, their liquid-like faces rippling with what we assumed was laughter. They seemed particularly fascinated by the cat concerto, where Tom's piano performance turned into a chaotic duel with Jerry. "This," one of them said, "is the essence of persistence." We showed them Popeye the Sailor, and they were intrigued by his transformation after consuming spinach, a curious ritual they likened to their own energy regeneration processes. Popeye's battles with Bluto, always over the affections of olive oil, struck them as both comical and oddly poignant. Conflict and nourishment, they mused, a universal theme. The Flintstones brought another layer of fascination. The Aelari were amused by the juxtaposition of prehistoric settings with modern-day problems. Fred Flintstone's Stone Age suburban life felt strangely relatable to them, even across galaxies. They chuckled at Dino's antics and marveled at Bedrock's inventive technology. Record players powered by birds, cars propelled by feet. "You humans are endlessly imaginative," they remarked. And then came Scooby-Doo. The Aelari were entranced by the Mystery Inc. gang's formulaic yet endearing adventures. The idea of unmasking villains who used fear as a tool resonated deeply with them. "This is wisdom," they said. "Fear is often but a mask." As we cycled through these classics, Yogi Bear stealing picnic baskets, Woody Woodpecker cackling mischievously, it became clear that these cartoons were more than entertainment to the Aelari. They saw them as windows into humanity's soul, our creativity, our struggles, our capacity for joy. But it was the Pink Panther that truly left an impression. The silent elegance of the titular character, paired with Henry Mancini's iconic jazz score, struck a chord with them on some profound level. They described it as a meditation on grace and ingenuity. Watching the Pink Panther outwit bumbling adversaries without uttering a word seemed to resonate with their own silent communication. By the time we reached Mighty Mouse, soaring onto the screen with his triumphant cry of, "Here I come to save the day," the Aelari were fully immersed in humanity's animated legacy. They noted how these stories often celebrated underdogs triumphing against overwhelming odds, a theme they found both inspiring and deeply human. "These creations," one Aelari finally said, their voice resonating like chimes in the wind, "are more than stories. They are your history, your philosophy, compressed into frames of color and sound." They paused before adding, "and they are delightful." It was humbling to realize that these simple cartoons, crafted in studios decades ago, had become our ambassadors to an alien civilization. In their laughter and admiration, we saw something profound, proof that even across galaxies, humor and storytelling could bridge the vastest divides. As the Aelari departed with digital archives of every classic cartoon we could offer, they left us with a parting thought. "Your world is complex and imperfect," they said, "but through these tales you show us its light." The Aelari had barely scratched the surface of humanity's animated treasures. After their delight with the classics, We introduced them to the vibrant, experimental, and wildly imaginative cartoons of the 1980s and 1990s. These decades were a renaissance for animation, where storytelling became more ambitious, characters more complex, and worlds more fantastical. First, we showed them He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. The Aolari were intrigued by the concept of a hero who could summon immense power with a simple phrase, "By the power of Grayskull," and they found Skeletor's over-the-top villainy both amusing and oddly compelling. They noted how the show blended mythology with science fiction, creating a universe that felt both ancient and futuristic. "This is a tale of duality," they said, "strength tempered by wisdom." Next came Thundercats, another 1980s staple. The Aolari were fascinated by the humanoid cats of Thundera, their struggles to rebuild their civilization on a new world, and their battles against the evil Mumra. The show's themes of honor, loyalty, and survival resonated deeply with them. "These are stories of resilience," they observed, "and of kinship." When we introduced Transformers, their reaction was one of awe. The idea of sentient robots that could transform into vehicles or weapons was unlike anything they had encountered before. They marveled at Optimus Prime's leadership and Megatron's relentless ambition, seeing in their conflict a reflection of humanity's own struggles. Between cooperation and conquest, "Your species," they said, "has an extraordinary imagination for creating life from metal." The 1990s brought even more variety to the table. DuckTales was an immediate hit with its globe-trotting adventures and treasure-hunting escapades. Scrooge McDuck's boundless greed, balanced by his love for his nephews, struck them as a uniquely human contradiction. "This is a tale of abundance," they said, "and its perils." Then came Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The Aolari were delighted by the absurdity of 4 mutant turtles trained in ninjutsu by a rat sensei. They admired how the turtles balanced their heroic duties with their love for pizza and camaraderie, finding it both humorous and endearing. "They are warriors," they said, "but also children." We couldn't skip Darkwing Duck, whose bumbling heroics brought laughter to even the most stoic among them. They appreciated its self-aware humor and playful parody of superhero tropes. Similarly, Animaniacs left them in stitches with its rapid-fire jokes, cultural references, and irreverent humor. "This," one Aolari remarked, "is chaos distilled into brilliance." On the more surreal side, we showed them Ren and Stimpy. Its grotesque humor and bizarre storylines left them bewildered yet fascinated. They described it as a window into your species' capacity for absurdity. In contrast, Hey Arnold offered a grounded portrayal of urban childhood life that they found poignant and reflective. The Aolari were particularly drawn to Batman, the animated series. Its dark tone, complex characters, and moral dilemmas captivated them in ways few other shows had. They saw Batman not just as a hero, but as a symbol of humanity's struggle against its own darkness. "This is not merely entertainment," they said solemnly. "It is philosophy." Finally, we introduced them to Pokémon. The concept of capturing creatures to battle while forming bonds with them struck them as both curious and heartwarming. Pikachu's loyalty to Ash Ketchum was especially touching to them. "This is partnership," they said simply. As they absorbed these animated worlds, it became clear that these cartoons weren't just stories. They were reflections of humanity's hopes, fears, and dreams. Each show revealed something new about us: our love for adventure, our capacity for humor, our struggles with morality, and our endless imagination. These creations, one Aolari concluded after watching hours upon hours of cartoons from this array, are fragments of your collective consciousness. Through them we see not just who you are, but who you aspire to be. The Aolari thought they had seen it all, until we introduced them to the cartoons of the 2000s and 2010s. These decades marked a new frontier in animation, where storytelling matured, visuals became increasingly sophisticated, and themes grew more diverse and inclusive. The Aolari, who had already been delighted by slapstick antics and timeless classics, now found themselves immersed in worlds that were richer, stranger, and more emotionally resonant than anything they had encountered before. We began with the groundbreaking Avatar, The Last Airbender. The Aelari were captivated by its intricate world-building, complex characters, and overarching narrative of balance and redemption. They marveled at Aang's journey as the Avatar, tasked with uniting warring nations while grappling with his own fears and doubts. "This is not merely a tale," one Aelari said. "It is a philosophy, a meditation on harmony." They noted how the series seamlessly blended Eastern philosophies with universal themes of friendship, courage, and sacrifice. Next came Teen Titans, a show that combined superhero action with coming-of-age drama. The Aelari admired how each Titan, Robin, Starfire, Raven, Cyborg, and Beast Boy, struggled with their own insecurities while battling villains. They were particularly moved by Raven's internal conflict with her dark heritage. "This," they said, "is the struggle of identity, a universal truth." When we introduced them to Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, the Aelari were enchanted by its whimsical premise, a sanctuary for imaginary friends who had been abandoned by their creators. They adored Blue's mischievous antics and found the idea of giving form to human imagination both profound and endearing. "Your species," they observed, "creates life from thought. This is wondrous." The surreal humor of the grim adventures of Billy and Mandy left them both amused and perplexed. The idea of Death himself being outwitted by two children struck them as absurdly human. "You find humor in defying inevitability," they noted. "This is curious." As we moved into the 2010s, we showed them Adventure Time. The Aelari were mesmerized by its sprawling, post-apocalyptic world, populated by candy kingdoms, sentient video game consoles, and ancient cosmic beings. They followed Finn the human and Jake the dog on their bizarre adventures with rapt attention. "This is chaos," one Aelari remarked, "but it is also beauty." They were particularly struck by how the show balanced absurdity with moments of profound emotional depth. Then came Steven Universe, which resonated deeply with their own ethos of harmony and understanding. The story of Steven, a half-human, half-gem boy navigating his identity while protecting Earth, moved them profoundly. They admired how the show tackled themes of love, acceptance, and self-discovery through its colorful cast of characters. "This," they said solemnly, "is a guide to coexistence." We couldn't skip Gravity Falls, a show that blended mystery with humor in a way that felt almost like an interdimensional puzzle box. The Aelari were enthralled by Dipper and Mabel's adventures in uncovering the secrets of Gravity Falls, Oregon. They appreciated how the show invited viewers to think critically while still delivering heartfelt moments between siblings. "This is a tale of curiosity," they said, "and the bonds that anchor you." The Aelari also found joy in the chaotic brilliance of the amazing world of Gumball. Its blend of animation styles, 2D characters interacting with 3D environments and real-world textures, fascinated them on a technical level, while its absurd humor left them laughing in their own strange way. "Your creativity knows no boundaries," they said. Finally, we introduced them to Over the Garden Wall, a hauntingly beautiful mini-series that felt like an ancient fable brought to life. The story of two brothers lost in a mysterious forest resonated deeply with the Aelari's love for layered storytelling. They described it as a journey through shadow toward light. By the end of their viewing marathon through 2 decades of animated brilliance, the Aelari seemed almost overwhelmed, not just by the sheer variety, but by the emotional depth these cartoons had offered. From tales of heroism to explorations of identity and morality, these stories revealed facets of humanity that even they hadn't anticipated. "These creations," one Aelari said softly after watching Steven Universe's climactic finale, "are not merely entertainment. They are your legacy." By the time we reached the 2020s, the Aelari had grown accustomed to humanity's animated treasures, but they were unprepared for what this era had in store. The cartoons of the 2020 generation were bold, experimental, and deeply reflective of a changing world. These weren't just stories. They were cultural statements, blending humor, action, and emotional depth in ways that left the Aelari marveling at humanity's evolving creativity. We began with Arcane, the breathtaking adaptation of the League of Legends universe. Its steampunk aesthetic and intricate character arcs stunned the Ilari. They were captivated by the tragic relationship between sisters Vi and Jinx, as well as the series' exploration of power, corruption, and trauma. This, one Ilari said solemnly, is a tapestry of light and shadow, your species' duality laid bare. Next came Invincible, a brutally honest take on the superhero genre. The Ilari were shocked by its visceral violence but deeply impressed by its nuanced storytelling. Mark Grayson's journey from an idealistic teenager to a hero grappling with his father's dark legacy resonated with them. This is not merely a tale of strength, they observed. It is a meditation on morality. We couldn't skip The Owl House, a vibrant fantasy series that blended magic with heartfelt coming-of-age themes. The Aelari were enchanted by Luz Notseda's adventures in the Boiling Isles and her journey of self-discovery. They admired how the show celebrated individuality and diversity while tackling complex themes like acceptance and identity. This, they said, is a guide for embracing the other. Then there was Bluey, an Australian series about a family of anthropomorphic dogs that had taken the world, and now the galaxy, by storm. Its simple yet profound stories about family life struck a universal chord with the Aelari. They marveled at how such short episodes could convey so much warmth and wisdom. This, one Aelari remarked after watching an episode about Bluey and Bingo playing pretend games, is joy distilled into its purest form. Adventure Time. Distant lands brought them back to familiar territory, but with a twist. These hour-long specials expanded on the beloved Adventure Time universe, exploring new corners of Ooh while delving deeper into its characters' lives. The Aelari were particularly moved by Together Again, which explored themes of love and reunion in ways that transcended time and space. For something darker, we showed them Scavenger's Reign. This visually stunning sci-fi series about survival on an alien planet left them awestruck. Its hauntingly beautiful animation and exploration of human resilience resonated deeply with their own experiences as interstellar travelers. This, they said, is a mirror to our own journeys. We also introduced them to Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, a vibrant Marvel series about Lunella Lafayette, a young genius who teams up with a red dinosaur to protect her community. The Aelari admired its celebration of ingenuity and its focus on empowering young minds. Your species, they noted, places great hope in its youth. The revival of Animaniacs brought laughter back into the mix. The zany antics of Wako and Dot felt like a nostalgic bridge between past and present animation styles. The Aelari appreciated how it poked fun at modern culture while retaining its chaotic charm. Finally, we showed them Kid Cosmic, an imaginative series about a boy who discovers cosmic stones of power in his desert town. Its quirky art style and heartfelt storytelling reminded them of humanity's boundless optimism and ingenuity in even the smallest corners of existence. By the time we concluded with X-Men 97, a continuation of the iconic 1990s series, the Aelari were fully immersed in humanity's ongoing fascination with heroism and social justice. They admired how this new iteration balanced thrilling battles with complex political undertones. This is not merely entertainment, they said thoughtfully. It is your history, told through myth. As they prepared to leave Earth once more, their archives now brimming with decades' worth of animation. One Aelari spoke for their kind. Your stories grow ever more intricate as your world changes. Through these creations, you reveal your struggles, your triumphs, your dreams. They paused before adding, and through them we see your soul. The Aelari were already brimming with delight from humanity's animated offerings, but when we revealed there was an entirely different category of animation, Japanese anime, they were stunned. Another tradition of storytelling? One of the masked, their shimmering form vibrating with curiosity. Show us. And so we began. We started with the works of Studio Ghibli, the perfect gateway into the world of anime. Spirited Away left them speechless. its tale of a young girl navigating a surreal spirit world filled with strange creatures and profound lessons about greed, love, and identity resonated deeply. The Ailari described it as a dream given form, marveling at its fluid animation and intricate world building. They were equally enchanted by My Neighbor Totoro, a gentle story of childhood wonder and connection to nature. This, they said, is serenity, a reflection of your bond with the living world. From there, we introduced them to Akira, the 1988 cyberpunk masterpiece that redefined animation as a medium for mature storytelling. The Ailari were awestruck by its dystopian vision of Neo-Tokyo, its themes of power and corruption, and its groundbreaking visuals. "This is prophecy," one whispered, "a warning wrapped in brilliance." We couldn't skip Dragon Ball Z, which had introduced millions around the globe to anime's kinetic energy and epic scale. The Ailari were captivated by Goku's endless battles, transformations, and unwavering determination. They noted how it celebrated resilience and growth through struggle. "Your species," they observed, "thrives on stories of triumph over adversity." Next came Sailor Moon, which brought a different kind of heroism to the forefront. The Ailari admired its themes of friendship, empowerment, and love wrapped in magical girl aesthetics. They noted how it balanced lighthearted moments with deeper, emotional arcs, calling it a celebration of unity. When we showed them Neon Genesis Evangelion, their reactions shifted from awe to introspection. This mecha anime wasn't just about giant robots battling monstrous beings. It was a deep dive into human psychology, existential dread, and the search for meaning in a chaotic universe. The Ailari were particularly struck by its exploration of loneliness and connection. "This is not merely a story," they said gravely. "It is an inquiry into existence." We moved on to Cowboy Bebop, a space western that blended jazz, action, and melancholy into something wholly unique. The Ailari were fascinated by Spike Spiegel's journey as a bounty hunter haunted by his past. They described it as a symphony of solitude, a tale of wandering souls searching for peace. Then there was One Piece, the sprawling pirate epic that had captivated audiences for decades with its themes of freedom, loyalty, and adventure. The Ailari marveled at its boundless creativity and emotional depth. "This," they said, "is a voyage, not just across seas but through the heart." We couldn't leave out Naruto and Naruto Shippuden. The story of an outcast ninja striving to be acknowledged struck a chord with them. They admired Naruto's perseverance in the face of rejection and his ability to inspire others to change for the better. "This," they said warmly, "is hope embodied." For something darker, we introduced them to Death Note. The psychological cat-and-mouse game between Light Yagami and L left them riveted. They were intrigued by its moral dilemmas and exploration of justice and power. "This," they said quietly, "is a mirror, showing both your light and shadow." Finally, we showed them newer works like Demon Slayer, whose breathtaking animation and heartfelt storylines had taken the world by storm. The Ailari were moved by Tanjiro's quest to save his sister Nezuko while battling demons born from tragedy. They described it as a tale of compassion amidst chaos. As we concluded with Attack on Titan, the Ailari were visibly shaken by its brutal depiction of humanity's struggle for survival against overwhelming odds, and its deeper questions about freedom and sacrifice. They called it a saga carved from anguish, a testament to your will to endure. By the end, the Ailari sat in silence for what felt like hours before finally speaking. "Your anime is not merely another form of storytelling. It is an odyssey, through your collective soul." They paused before adding, "You have shown us joy through cartoons, but through anime, you have shown us your fears, your dreams, your humanity."